how we became Democrats. So Martin Luther King Sr. was a leading influential Republican pastor who endorsed Nixon in 1960. But in October of 1960, his son, Martin Luther King Jr., got arrested in Atlanta in a sit-in. And as a result, they hit him with a probation violation and sentenced him to 4 months hard labor in Reidsville State Prison. So JFK kind of took advantage of that. He called Coretta Scott King to express his concern. Later, he had his brother Bobby reach out to the judge and have Martin Luther King Jr. released from jail right before the election. Now, Daddy King, happy about this, he publicly endorses JFK over Nixon. The Kennedy campaign took this information and dropped what they called the Blue Bomb, which was a pamphlet that they mass-produced and spread across the country in all the black churches right before the election, which highlighted the release of Martin Luther King, and who did it, of course. So now the black voters, they swung hard for the Democrats, for JFK, because churches have flipped blue and the community locked in through the King family connection. Then in 1964, you got the Civil Rights Act that gets passed under LBJ. In 1965, it's the Voting Rights Act that gets passed under LBJ again, which reinforces this new alignment and all of these programs that LBJ is saying that he's bringing to the community. That's going to make the community so much better. But Martin Luther King saw that the deal was bad and insufficient. Yeah, it looked good on paper, but didn't have any economic justice or leverage. Matter of fact, we had given our leverage away just by integrating for nothing. It didn't cost the nation anything. In fact, it helped the economic side of the nation to integrate lunch counters and public accommodations. It didn't cost the nation anything to get the right to vote established. Now we are confronting issues that cannot be solved without costing the nation billions of dollars. Now, I think this is where we're getting our greatest resistance. So on April 4th, 1967, Martin Luther King gave the Beyond Vietnam speech, calling out the triple evils and going against the grain. Now, in late 1967, on December 4th, Martin Luther King launched the Poor People's Campaign to collect the check. Jobs, income, housing, and economic Bill of Rights. Exactly 1 year later, on April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis while building momentum for the Poor People's Campaign. Then, Jesse Jackson and his crew stepped in to keep the program that had already decided they was going to. And from that, he built Operation Push, Rainbow Push Coalition, and he operated inside the framework of the original deal, which was a bad deal, but this no more than a regime change. Once Martin Luther King saw that he had a bad deal, saw that he gave away our only leverage, which was our economic base, economic power, because we had everything. We had our own bus and company, we had our own movie theaters, we had our own grocery stores, we had our own everything, and he gave that away when we integrated. It was leverage, but it was not used appropriately. It was just given away, when what we should have had was equal protection under the law, because we didn't even need to commingle. We just needed the federal government to impose some sanctions once these people got out of line.